We're recording.
All right, today is December 1st. The time is approximately 7:05 p.m. and this is a Village Council work session. In attendance, we have myself, Council President Wolf. We have Councilpersons McNamara, Camera, Shrestha, Koss, Mayor Hughes, Mayor Southard, still getting used to that. Village Planner Eric Fisher, Village Attorney Jesse Shamp. As per usual, we will sort of trot through the agenda, asking for highlights of people's reports, if they care to give them. We will look at the legislation, and then my recollection was that we had a couple of items we wanted to talk about this time round. So, looking at village officials' reports, Jesse, was there any headlines you wanted to give us in advance of the meeting?
No.
Beautiful. Oh, I also just noticed we have 3 meeting minutes on the agenda, so people have read them and be ready to vote on them come next Thursday. Eric Fisher, any headlines you want to give us before next Thursday?
Building's moving along, which I'll repeat.
Oh, picture.
Yeah.
Council, very
Nice.
Yeah. So they're busy. They are working on the generator. Obviously, is the thing to come back before council. They're working on that still. Hope to have something to you here before next couple of weeks before Christmas. I know they push this guy pretty hard. And then, so it's not lost. I'm going to hand out tonight the draft snow removal agreement with Flint Township. Want to keep that on the agenda. The Cole reminded me about that this morning.
He actually emailed about that the other day. And did I forward it to you?
No.
Okay, he emailed me about it.
Do we have legislation for that, or is it just?
No, and so what we to discuss, and my intention, with the mayor's permission, of course, is to put it on the agenda, so at least it gets a first reading.
For Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yes, I can, since we're talking about it, and we'll take more discussion a little later, I hope to have some significant, especially since he emailed today and I re-emailed them, I hope to have some significant progress this week. The only holdup I can see, which was expressed in dismay at the last meeting, Mayor using and I attended. Sorry, same issue as him.
I answered whatever.
It's a habit.
Mayor, hey you.
Yes, that's a good one. The only issue I can see is that the equivalence of just coming out and salting and wanting to charge us a full $3,500 and how that's going to be viewed, right? Because you don't need to push snow every time.
Right. Yeah, there should be a definition or a delineation in
just keep in mind, as
Jesse's
sitting here, they don't actually have to plow us if they don't feel like it. We did do some research.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there's no requirement, even though there's property taxes to be paid, and everything's kosher right now. Everyone's had a nice kumbaya discussion. Nobody's banging away. We just want to put it out there that we can't make them plow us. So if there's a disagreement at the end of the day and they tell us to go jump into one of our lakes,
we've got lakes to choose from.
yes, we do.
Yeah.
That is a real glass half
So,
full.
it might be just, the fortunate thing is between the last couple of meetings, we were worried that we were going to have to invest in a whole giant plow. That's not necessary, but what still might be necessary is perhaps a smaller truck that just is able to salt and push a couple inches of snow so that you can go around and do the light stuff, which prevents them from having to come out. So, something to consider.
All right. Cool. On the next one on there with planning and zoning, and the only thing I'd throw out is that the next P&Z is the 14th, according to my calendar.
Yep. 2 biggies, zoning, kind of a conglomeration of all the zoning stuff. The date will be on that meeting, and the school district will be there with their plans to
that's exciting.
go over the stuff at Hawthorne in the back.
All right.
Right next to our pool. So it should be a good meeting.
Cool. Going on.
All it says is, we just haven't heard back from us yet from our discussion or whatever.
Yeah. Councilperson Shrestha, any headlines you want to give us in advance of Thursday from MPCA?
We're just going to be talking about the numbers for Trolley all the way, the Children's Party, Festival of Lights, just reminding people that luminaries are canceled. Just
Cool.
Is there a December newsletter?
We just got my news.
I just got, yeah.
Something
this is
just came
in-
out.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's in your mailbox.
Maybe I should check my mailbox.
Just, like literally, like today,
Okay.
like I just got it out of the mailbox.
I feel like I didn't even get the usual reminder, hey, submit
Yeah.
something.
Diane sent something.
Okay.
Yeah, she did last week, I believe.
So I sent an email after this.
All right, on to committee
Yeah,
reports.
he must have done-
Nikki, you're first up again. Any headlines for communications?
Kind of the same thing as last time, waiting on the surveyor to move forward with the village survey. I know everybody's busy, so. We're also preparing pamphlets for the police department to help residents understand the new direct control leash law. I know that there was some talk of us wanting to revisit that, so that's why I've not kind of hopped on that yet. Yeah, and just discussing the next date for chatting with council.
All right,
Can I jump in on one
Yeah.
thing? So on the survey, so and I just wanted to check, so I know we budgeted money for the survey for 2023, right? He's ready to go whenever, because I
Awesome.
understood, so, and I don't know if I communicated that clearly to you last meeting, but I had reached out to him and just told him that, asked him if he was still interested, and I said, I think money's been budgeted and it has, and then come January 1st, we can engage in,
Let's do it.
no problem.
Awesome.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
PO has to be done in 2023, we can't engage in doing anything until 2023, until the budget is,
That makes sense.
Fully approved and ready to go.
fully
on
approved and
January
ready to
1st.
go January 1st, so.
yep. All right, anything else from?
No.
All right, next up is me with finance. Our heavy lifting was annual budget, and that's doing its readings in council. Streets, any highlights from you there, Councilperson Cost?
Actually, I'm in the middle of an email right now, but yes, one of our last homeowners that we, weren't able to get a hold of, I'm sending you an email right now.
Okay.
That we got his contact information, he is currently in town, so we're gonna talk to him, he seems to be on board as we're working on the project, so it seems to be a go, but I just wanted to kind of touch base with him, just to make sure everybody's on the same page when it comes to that kind of project. And we were kind of working on a different issue on Cleveland Road, or Cleveland Avenue, that there was a little bit of a spillover that people were complaining about. So we're investigating that as well, just to make sure it's not a hazard during the times that the water freezes, so.
And it's been like that for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, so we're kind of working on that too. So yeah,
If it's out on Cleveland, is it ours?
that's what we're working on, we're not sure what's going on there.
It's right there in front of like 54.
It's right in front of, so it seems to belong to a property behind that would dry, it's spilling over, and what's happening, and the engineer has come out a couple times. So, we're working on that next step.
Okay. No, Tony, this isn't your opportunity to speak.
I'll talk to you after the meeting then.
All right, streets, community, Councilperson Camera.
We have a meeting Monday, so I should have some updates for next Thursday.
And it's at 7,
Yes, ma'am.
Monday at 7, cool.
Yeah. Monday at 7.
and it's here.
Here.
Yes, I knew that.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
All right. Monday 7, community, Councilperson Camera, any highlights from safety? Or not camera, McNamara, I apologize.
I have not held a meeting. I do have something when we get to legislation that I'll
Okay.
bring up, but safety is
And
unchanged. as of now.
Councilperson Bruger is not here to speak to anything regarding legislation. And he also did not reply to my text message, so we're gonna assume he's not dead and just ignoring us.
I do have that.
That would be a good assumption, hopefully.
That's all right.
I'm just kidding.
We have that
So should I
legislation.
go ahead and just ask Barb to maybe schedule it for 6:30, and
Yeah.
if we wanna cancel it, we can? Okay.
Yep, that's what I would suggest.
Okay, I'm gonna text her,
Well-
well, I'll do it at the end of the meeting in case Mark comes and says, no, he doesn't
Yeah,
have
that's
anything
fine.
for it.
While we're on it, Nikki, you had said something about an appetite to go back and revisit the direct control language?
Actually, Tony had brought it up in a meeting, and then David said that he wished to revisit that.
Yeah. What I guess I would need re-explanation. I know we had a safety meeting about it some time ago, but I must have forgotten the specifics of why we chose the direction we did, in the writing of it.
If I remember correctly, I think that the putting the leash in there, requiring the leash, the feeling was we were taking rights away from citizens.
So,
And so the compromise was the direct
Yeah.
control, let's try that and see how that goes, and then if we need to revisit it again, we can always bring it back up and change it. I believe that's what the discussion was.
Yeah, that's exactly how that conversation went.
Okay.
yeah,
Again, I was there for it, I don't know
Yeah.
why I didn't.
It was a
Oh,
middle
what-
position between always on leash
Right.
and
What we currently have.
what we
Right.
currently have.
Right.
Well,
And if we need to
hopefully that
revisit-
works.
We revisit.
Yep, exactly. Were there any other concerns regarding that language? No? All right. Then let's go down and look to see what legislation is actually on the agenda.
So that's up for a third reading though, not that's up for,
Yeah, that is a third reading.
okay, so are we leaving that on there then at this point?
Leaving it on. Nobody here is expressing a desire to table it. Nobody is, we talked through it, everybody seems okay. See no reason to.
ultimately, if, for the record, I would love to have a full leash law. The only reason that I kind of compromised with everybody on that is because I knew that was as far as it was going. Ultimately, I think we should have a leash law, but everybody else didn't think that too, so.
I'm very, very close to that viewpoint as well, but
I think we should protect certain.
let's be hopeful that it'll work.
I
in
am,
its-
I
in its
really
current
am.
form.
But if not, again, everybody else has said that we'll come and we'll revisit
Yep.
it, so.
I guess I'm just not aware that we've had an issue, and maybe that's my concern, is I don't know why we're constricting everything when I'm not aware that there has been an actual,
There was,
I think that was more like the compromise, maybe. I don't know.
there was an appetite to address it. We have looked at it, we have debated it, and we have come to a compromised position. And that's what government does.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and that's the first one on the agenda, and it's a third reading, so we can expect to move for passage. For that one, ordinance 32, 2022, make appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the Village of Minerva Park for the year ending 2023. So that looks like that's the annual budget.
Yes.
And that's a third reading, so we can expect to move for passage there. Ordinance 33, 2022, an ordinance updating the wage and salary ranges of a number of employees and positions for the Village of Minerva Park. We've had multiple discussions. This is jiggling around pay ranges for police. I think some of the other employees of the village.
I think almost everybody's.
Yeah, everybody's getting a little love this year. It's a third reading with an intent to pass as an emergency, so that with the first pay period of the new year, it can be in effect.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And I think also some of the changes in ranges were to keep us from having to come back
Correct.
and change them mid-year,
Yeah,
so.
right, and also to make us competitive to other markets.
Right,
Yeah,
so
Yeah,
this should help
there
keep
was-
us from, having stuff.
there was a lot of good stuff going on
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
All right, next up. Ordinance 34, 2022, an ordinance establishing healthcare benefits for employees and the mayor and authorizing the purchase of health insurance and declaring an emergency. This is just authorizing them to buy health insurance, right?
Yeah, we're staying with the same company,
Yeah.
it's the same everything, it's just we do this, I believe it's every 2 years.
Yeah, every 2 years, and
Unless it's more than 11%, or more than 10%, then we come back, but I'm pretty sure this is just our second year regardless. I do believe it increased 11%, so either way, we would've had to come back, but
Yep.
some increases were over 35%, so ours was pretty,
Yep.
ours was pretty stable.
this is another 3 readings, but of course, again, we're looking to pass as an emergency so that
January 1st.
come January 1, our people still have health insurance. Moving on down the line, an ordinance to rescind ordinance 23, 2015 EMS Vehicle and Related Equipment Fund. This is that back in 2015, when we had an EMS vehicle, there was an ordinance and a plan put together to help fund the replacement of that vehicle. Obviously, we no longer operate an EMS unit, so we don't have a vehicle, we don't need the fund, and there's like $100 and some odd or something like that in the fund. So this is about rescinding that, so we no longer need the fund, we can move the money. 36, 2022, an ordinance establishing funds. Off the top of my head, I don't remember which ones they were. I seem to think one was for pool maintenance, and another one was, and Councilperson Cost was looking at me funny, like maybe she knew.
Storm sewer improvement fund
Yeah, it
for
was-
the receipt of grants and other
Just for my
There-
stuff.
Huh?
Just for my stuff.
It was,
And pool improvement fund.
and pool improvement. Yep, stormwater and pool improvement.
Yep.
This is, yeah, this is also a third reading, also an intent to pass as an emergency so that those funds can be in place come the start of the new year.
Oh, yeah, cause that's also because the money is being, okay, so
Yeah.
35, 36, and 30,
7,
no,
no,
transfer funds 34, 22, so yeah, there's a couple of them that are going together.
yeah. Yep, we'll,
I thought 35 is just moving money to 36, basically, it's 35.
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah, there's multiple ones that are going together.
yep.
Okay.
37, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the village. And this is this year, and this is that same thing that happens every year, is we kinda gotta balance out accounts. And this is the appropriation that does that. This is also a third reading, so we can look to pass for, to move for passage. 38, 2022, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the village. For Minerva Park for the year of 2022, intends to waive readings 2 and 3. I think, is this the one
This is
that,
the brand new one, this is because, this is our health insurance once again,
is it
so
health insurance
this
or was
is-
it workers' comp? I thought,
Or workers' comp, yes.
Yeah.
So what they did in 2020, we got the bill at the end of the year. One of the years we got it at the end of the year, then we got it at the beginning of the bill of the year. We were not expecting this one until after January, we already got it, and it's actually due the 24th of December. So this is next year's bill that we're getting this year that's due now, instead of it actually coming in January like it did last year. So this is just a bill that we got that's due that is not technically budgeted until next year. So it's timing of the bill.
everybody get that?
Yes, that is.
And that's why there's multiple lines, the 11th is employee fringe benefits in multiple places.
Right.
The only one that's different is the $400, we are still short $400 in the swimming pool, the personal services, we were $400 short on that one.
Alright.
Other than that, all of those other lines are employee fringe benefits for the, bill of workers' comp.
Got it.
Perfectly valid and
Or-
perfect reason.
Absolutely. Resolutions, 2022-31, this is rules of council. So we'll have a third reading on that. I think that is something we're gonna wrap around and have some discussion on here. But we'll come back to that at the end. Resolution 2022-32, authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer. This is the annual contracts. I think we reviewed that and reminded the mayor to take flow line off of the
Did we take
list.
it off? I thought I checked it and it was off, but let me.
I'm sure I haven't.
The line is gone.
I mean, worst case scenario, we authorize you to enter into contracts with them, but they're not in business, and how you can enter into contracts with them?
Exactly, so yeah, but yes, they're on the list.
Do we need to add the pool software company?
I don't know.
Is it a contract for service, or is it just
I
software
guess
where you
maybe it's
buy?
more of a membership than.
Yeah, it's more of a membership. I don't think we did, it was what, $500 or something?
Yeah.
Something like that?
If it's $500,
It's already in your operations budget, you can pull it out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
it's,
I don't think it's like a recurring, it seems different than what these all are.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
Right.
wanted to.
Yeah, but if anybody comes up with one before Thursday that we haven't thought about, let me know.
Yeah, and then resolution 34-2022, resolution authorizing the transfer of funds. I think this is the third one that you were looking for, Mayor Hughes,
Yes.
that was moving money amongst the funds that were closed and created.
Correct.
Okay, so let's go back and discuss resolution 2022-31. There are two areas of the rules of council that I would like to
Okay.
address.
Do you wanna start with you and then we can kinda go around if anybody wants, like,
Yeah.
or
Perfect.
however you want.
The first one is once again, as I will do every opportunity I have, I think we should remove the Pledge of Allegiance from the agenda of our meeting. I think the clearest and most concise way I can say this is that I hate telling lies, and I don't think that anybody should stand up and say that they believe there's liberty and justice for all. And for that reason alone, I think we should stop saying it.
I agree with you.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay, so we kind of got through to bring Councilperson Bruder up to speed, who is joining us. We've kind of dashed our way through the agenda. We've talked through the legislation. Now we are talking about potential changes to rules of council. And I have started with my old.
Yep, I know what you started with.
getting rid of the Pledge of Allegiance, because again, I don't think any of us can rightly stand up and say there's liberty and justice for all. And if you can't say it for true, you shouldn't say it at all. Councilperson Koss has come in agreement. What do other people think?
No way.
Not my rules of council, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking, normally I'd always keep my mouth shut. I don't agree, I don't think it should be removed, and it's not my rules
I
of
mean,
council.
I guess if you think you can say there's liberty and justice for all, that's fine.
I don't think it should be removed, that's all I have to say.
It should not be removed, I agree.
I lean towards not removing it, so.
Well, there's two. There
Yeah,
are
I'm trying,
two.
sorry guys, I can't.
There are two, right now we are, straw poll 2 for 2. 2 and 2.
I am honestly fine with it being pulled out. I've never liked enforced ritualistic. It takes any meaning. Even if you want to attribute a meaning to it, it takes that meaning away. Because it's not something you're doing because you want to or you this. It's, oh, okay, it's this time, so we stand up, we do this. I don't know. Maybe it's because I was raised Catholic, so, oh, this is the time we stand, and then this is the time we kneel, and half the people don't know it, so you're watching that old lady in the front row is the old joke. What? Okay, yeah, now we're supposed, I don't know why we're doing this, just, everyone's doing it, come on.
Yeah.
And I look at it as the total opposite, I feel like you're taking the ability away from the people that do wanna do it, I feel like if you don't wanna stand, you don't have to
You don't
stand.
have
I
to.
feel like there's plenty of other opportunities to express one's patriotism in lots of other ways, and lots of other more appropriate
But
ways.
that's for that person to decide, right? But if we say no, then anybody that wants to do the Pledge of Allegiance, they're automatically not able to, instead of someone just sitting down.
Well, they're actually still able to, they could stand up, and I'm sure if they started, we would be like, oh, okay, we'll give you a moment.
Yeah, I'd probably talk over them, but that's just me.
I'm sure you do.
Well, Councilperson McNamara, you're sort of the,
Well, yeah, you're the
You're-
determining
Happened
factor.
last year too.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's when you're slow to talk, you wind up being the last one to talk.
Now you know why I open my big mouth really fast.
Well, I mean, I do not disagree with Council President Wolf at all. There is, a long way to go in America's journey towards liberty and justice for all. That is not a false statement at all. That being said, there are, rightly or wrongly, depending on how one thinks about it, big cultural significance and meanings given to the Pledge of Allegiance. I definitely understand why people want it. I understand why people wouldn't. Would there be any appetite to? I guess we already treat it as optional, more or less.
The biggest question is does it stay on the agenda for the option to do it or not? I think that's the
Yeah,
rules of
but-
council
yeah, that's the rule of
basically
council
said,
just sets the
yeah,
agenda.
it's just
And
for the
again,
agenda.
I hate having a lie in the agenda. That's why I hate it. I hate it a lot because what we are asking people to do is to stand up and say something that everybody in this room knows is a lie. That there isn't liberty and justice for all.
I think it's the pursuit of liberty and justice.
But it doesn't say I'm pledging allegiance to the pursuit of liberty and justice. So
It's the same concept. I think that having the choice of not standing up I think that teaches our our young people and people in life, hey, if you don't believe in it, don't do it. I love that you sit down for it because you don't believe in it, and I love that lesson that it teaches the people that watch it, so everyone has a choice.
That is valid.
So,
I
when
guess.
other
Have that
people
choice.
don't wanna do it, don't. I certainly don't wanna be the person saying, do it, right? But I don't wanna take it away from those who, same thing with the leash law, I don't wanna take it away from those who wanna do it.
Fair enough.
I'd never take my dog out without one, never.
Councilperson McNamara, are you, I mean, you're the final.
I mean, on a personal note, I'm not opposed to its removal.
All right, I think what we're getting at is we won't get a commitment there, so I guess it stays in, much to my chagrin. All right, next would be, that I wanted to address was committees. I think it has become clear that streets handling both streets, sewers, and all services is an awful lot. It used to be that we had two committees. One was services that handled sewers, trash pickup, leaf pickup, and streets, which was street repair and maintenance. I think we should look to break that committee down into two again, just because it's an awful lot, and has been an awful lot for a long time, and for a committee that generally seems to be run by the chair,
Yeah.
and that's about it.
And in fairness, that started in 2018 when I took it over. It was merged into one, and I will be the first to tell you, and I stay involved in it quite often because it is too much for one person.
Yeah.
That's getting paid $150 a month, in fairness. It is a lot of emails, it's a lot. Maybe it's because I did this. I don't think there is another committee that has as much,
Oh, no.
don't take this
No.
wrong.
No.
I don't think there is
It's-
another committee that has as much on their plate, even with my help, that this particular one does, and I don't think it's.
Sure.
Next year, you might not be on streets, and you don't have to be on streets, because at the first of the year, people can change them. So this is not being done for any specific person, I think we should also
No.
point that out. Your schedule may or may not want, you may or may not want to do it again, but I would completely agree, when it got switched to just me and they switched it, I did it because I didn't really know any different, and it is way too much to expect someone to do.
Yeah, no, I think in fairness and in recollection, I think that you picked it up because you were personally, you had a lot more skin in the game, because the sewer problems at the time were on your street, and they still are, right? I mean, the stormwater problems are still on.
I always say I was sabotaged by someone, that's it. It's a joke, but yeah.
So then what happens, since each of us chair one, does someone
So
chair
then
two?
we can, well, we could do that, or we could look to cut a different committee, right? So.
Or realign.
Or realign, right? The duties could be realigned.
How does everybody feel about, not to be dumb, but, okay, let's do this really fast. As far as finance go, you're content, you feel like there's enough to do?
Yeah, I think it's enough that there's an oversight position to understand what's going on in our finances
It's
and make
important.
sure that those things get done.
And then I think and maybe I'll just do it this way.
Yeah.
Yours is the only other one that I feel like is consistently, I'm not
A lot of
saying
work.
it's not important and yours is not important, but it's a 30-minute meeting, I don't think there's a ton, and you do have the help of
Yeah.
a lot of people. But your committee, I think, is the other one that just has an abundance of, between the pool and it doesn't
Yeah.
operate itself.
I think,
But it's not just the pool.
Right.
All the community events.
sure. I mean, for the committee I chair, I think, part of it's just that we've neglected some of it for so long, and it's just getting it back in place.
Yeah.
I think once some things are back in place, it's maintenance and it's not much to do, plus we have some big aspirations for some things over the
I
next
think-
couple of years, so.
I think the big
those will take a while.
aspirations-
But I think,
The big aspirations is a big difference of how
yeah,
community has been run in the past, because previous to,
right,
up till recently, all community would do is have one meeting a year to discuss pool fees,
right.
and then schedule lake cleanup, and that was pretty much all community did for a long, long time. So not, and I'm saying, you've done great, it's good to have someone there who wants to do more and better and provide good things for our people, so I love that.
So you don't feel like yours is too much for, and I'm not saying you in general, because again, everybody can switch what we do next year, so you have done the job for a year, do you feel like it's too much work for one particular person overall?
For one person to drive
work
it.
for myself,
Okay.
so.
I would agree with
Someone
that.
else coming after me, then they say, no, I'm not gonna worry about that, and then
Right.
whatever it was, so, yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
so,
and,
I mean,
so then what are we?
No, it's just, is there, talking about realigning,
Yeah.
if you wanted to get rid of some of your stuff, put that into the service one, her get rid of some of the
Oh, I see
stuff,
what
put it
you're
into the
saying, gotcha.
service one, is there anything that you feel like you would, that doesn't belong in yours? Or anything, and then he can figure out what he wants to do to try to, I'm just trying to get options to realign or
No.
remove.
Yeah.
You can't remove safety, because safety is number one, like, is obviously, safety is safety. Finance you can't get rid of,
Right.
legislative has to be done.
right,
I
so then the
I
other,
think we're okay, I think we're okay.
right, the other one would be finding,
Huh?
but no, this isn't an opportunity for councilperson Benedetti, or former councilperson Benedetti to speak. But, I mean, there's also communication, so we could look to put communication, those duties in with service, or, cause what makes better sense than, these are the services we provide you, and communication is one of those.
Well, what would be, cause now I'm worried about,
That person having. to-
well, so if you're splitting streets into streets and services, and services is going to be, you know,
Trash, leave.
well, if it's just trash and leaf,
Yeah.
okay, and then so streets would still have
Well, you're
all
gonna have now
the,
snow removal and things like that in
Snow
there as
removal
well.
now.
okay, snow removal.
I feel like,
That's
Maintenance?
where that should be
And that's
instead of
not
in
too
with
hard.
you, I think.
Yeah,
it's good as
maintenance.
you. The maintenance stuff should actually
Maintenance
go in
plan could go
service.
under services,
yeah, and
Don't
that's
you
not,
have like,
like a, or, you know, as we look next year,
entrances and stuff?
we've had
That
communi-
should be in service.
well, I feel like there's another conversation going on over there.
Yeah, well, no, I was just asking him, isn't like his,
Yeah, I mean, I think if we look at what it says on the.
yeah, because you're supposed to be working with code enforcement to review and clarify codes and ordinances. This is to support the village administration and code enforcement officer.
Me?
According to the
It doesn't
community,
say anything, yeah. We added that, I'm not throwing stones. We added that because Tony wanted that added to community last year. Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong, just with a head shake.
I feel like that should be
Yes.
under safety,
Where's the?
Yeah.
more than community.
I can see that, yeah. Not to say that's, you know, what I'll
This is
do
in
next year, but I
actual
can
rules
see
of
that.
council, which is what we're discussing.
Yeah,
No, I'm not throwing
Yeah.
stones. He's looking on the website.
No, I voted.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think the rules of council are up there
I
too.
forgot about
Yeah, I like Calinity, whatever that is. Lots of ones in this.
Yeah, I don't know why it's like that.
Um,
Okay, so what is your recommendation?
So
Start
my-
and I'll shut up.
My recommendation would be that streets would retain street maintenance, street planning, street signs, sewers, storm and sanitary, right? Cause they're under the streets,
Yes, I agree.
right? And then a new or reestablished service committee would be, trash, leaf, responsibilities towards whatever our maintenance program may be for the village. And that's what I got right now. Other people are welcome to, and consuming the communications responsibilities as well. So not only are we providing services, but the communications would be a part of the services we provide.
But at that point, it sounds,
So you're putting that under communication?
yeah, it sounds more like you're just putting that under, you're saying communications
Yeah, I mean-
is gonna get this stuff as
I
well.
know it may not appear to anybody, but please remember that I'm doing all the communications with the police department. I'm working with them. Almost all your social media, if Barb don't put it up, I'm putting those up. So I mean, I really don't know if you guys understand that there is a lot to communications.
The question is what is
Yeah.
the importance of, and I'm not saying communications is not,
Yeah.
don't take
Yeah.
that wrong. When you start talking, and this goes with, obviously, streets is also, you can't, streets and signs and sewers and all that is probably, don't take it wrong, more important than any of it, because we can't flush our toilets.
Yeah,
So the question is communication something that we originally had administration doing it? And that all started with Diane.
Mm-hmm.
And creating that committee, which you were part of that during that time, in which I think you were one of the ones that didn't necessarily think we should have a communication, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, so
We
the,
went through multiple meetings of what is our purpose.
yeah, so my recollection of the original creation of the communications committee came out of the 2999 Dublin Grandview thing. And at that time, because as we've all heard more than once, we're never transparent, right? No matter the fact that we do everything in public meetings with recordings and blah, blah, blah. It was an effort to try to be more transparent. And so under Mayor Eisentraut and that same year, we created a communications committee. But it was never really well-defined. It was never really got anything going, in my opinion, until recently. And Nikki has done a great job making it into a thing. I don't disagree with that at all, right? I do think that there is value in communication. I do think that, there is value in communication, but I also think that communication is just another thing that the village does, right? Along with things like establishing services. I don't see that it couldn't be, right? And part of my argument or my notion here is that we only have so many bodies and things kind of got to line up to the number of bodies we got.
So do we put it as another committee or mix it in communications?
No, what I would say is
There'd
that
only be six.
I would call it, six committees, right? It would be finance, legislation, safety, community, streets, and services, right? And one of those services is communication. Running a survey to
Right.
understand the hopes, dreams, desires of our residents. Running our maintenance program so that we understand, if, what, how we are going to maintenance the lands that we have, right? All of that can fall under this idea of service. I mean, it sounds kind of like a big committee as well, and it will probably be a committee that will rely on all three of its members.
Well, trash is only done, and to remember this,
once a
trash
year.
Yeah,
bids are
once a
only
year.
done once every 3
3
years.
years, yeah.
Well,
Leaf is done
Every
every year,
year.
but should be and could be something that we look at more of a 2-year term. I know the current, I actually have some information for that, not for this meeting.
And are we still looking
Well,
to
and-
use that bidding software?
Yes.
So would that go into that bidding
Sure.
software?
Yes,
Potentially.
absolutely.
Well, and when I first started, and I think I was on communication my first year and then this year, most of the time of communication was spent just coming up with how are we debating, talking, and staring at our shoes about, well, what are we gonna do? Do we wanna get this? Do we wanna do text things? Do we want to, not in, of course, what was being communicated, but in how we were going to communicate.
And we have those.
I feel we have those now. As far as the actual day-to-day communication, I'm in strong favor of that is much more of an executive branch authority of speaking for the village than a committee of council speaking for village, if that makes sense. And not that I'm saying like you shouldn't be helping out and posting things, Nikki, that's obviously not it.
No, I get it.
But any, official message should come from that central point. Which then takes, and maybe I'm wrong, but then takes away some of communications official, what they need to do. Since we have so many, if we're gonna look at survey questions and put out a survey, I really think that's a special work session and all council members anyway. I don't think that should just,
It can be coordinated with.
it can be, yeah.
communications, because-
a committee can take a first pass at it and bring that to the body as a whole.
Yeah,
Yeah. Committees have like an oversight.
Yeah.
And they,
Yeah, that's the
they help
plan,
get
that
everything
fully
in a
bring it,
position
yeah.
that then, you're right, the
Yeah.
central point, the administration handles things, but sometimes putting things into place requires the greater council to push things forward and then vote for it, so.
And as far as what admin does, and just so you know, but the text blast, to my knowledge, and I don't know if you've done them, but, admin does do those.
Yeah,
And
I
on the
figured
weekends.
I figured as
So
much.
admin does do that, the newsletter is done, myself and Barb go through all of that. The weekly email things that go out, Barb does do those.
Yeah. Oh, I figured that
email
was
blast.
all doing that, I was just,
Yeah.
putting out there for the record that,
All
you
of the
know,
food trucks and all
that stuff is all being handled by admin,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the MailChimp and all that and helping with the website and the newsletter, I set up with Barb and helped her
Yeah.
learn and train. I trained her on every single one of those things as well. Again, I just want that to be noted as well. Again, Barb does an amazing job. I will never take away from that. But again, I don't wanna feel like communication, if someone feels as if communication isn't doing a lot.
No,
maybe I'm
nobody's
reading it
saying
wrong.
that.
Maybe I'm
We're-
reading it wrong.
No, because again,
Both
this
sides
is
do
more.
a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think the other part, and that's why I said what I said when I did, is this may not be your committee next year, so I don't want you to take it, I think this is more of a general, and if
Right.
everybody keeps
Yeah.
the same one, you guys have the ability to, I don't control that anymore. The mayor used to control it, but now I do not control it anymore. So you guys do what you wanna do, but this is more of a general, like, these are the committees, what do we wanna do with the committees, and then you guys can decide, if you don't wanna do the services next year, or she doesn't wanna do streets or whatever. This is a conversation that's not based on a person that's currently doing it.
Right.
And the question is just because you do it, if you don't run 2 years from now, what's the next person going to do? What are their responsibilities going to be? So I don't want anybody to feel like we're taking away something from them personally.
So two things. First, we have the ability, you and council have the ability to appoint a special committee.
Correct.
In which case we wanna do it for some of the projects, like the
survey or-
survey. We could do something like that for a special project, which would take some stuff off that group's plate. I think the other thing is, if I remember correctly, I think we have budgeted for 2 administrative assistants. Which case, maybe we look at someone that comes in and does a little more communication type
That
stuff,
would be awesome.
you know, to kind of,
And that would go along kind of with what Mark is saying, is that something that we really want admin to do?
right.
Or, yeah, I won't go where I was. At some point, you still have to look for the information, the information is there.
A lot of larger communities have a
Yes.
web person that does all of that
Oh, yeah.
kind of stuff. And maybe instead of an administrative assistant, we have someone that does some marketing,
Yeah.
something like that, a different type of title than administrative assistant. That kind of manages that
Oh,
type of
yeah.
stuff for us. Not that Barb, I'm sure Barb loves doing it, but I know she does.
Oh, yeah, she enjoys doing this.
Is there any opportunity to have some sort of like internship or something for marketing?
I think there's always the opportunities to do it, it's a matter of getting the person in there,
Yeah.
and will they show up, and will they stop in the middle of it, and
Well.
sometimes it's more a headache than it's been
And
worth.
an
Trying to, like,
internship,
credit for the school.
A lot of
an
it.
internship implies a relationship with a educational institution and then you've gotta jump through a lot of hoops
Right.
to, be an
A
internship.
lot of it was difficult in 2020 with COVID and all of that, and we did reach out, and we had talked to, we've talked to a couple different places like Otterbein and things like that to get not even internships, but just working with maintenance, and, we've reached out to a couple of the colleges and even high schools and things like that, and I will tell you, it never went anywhere.
Good to know.
So where did we land on this?
I don't know, I think the only thing, what I'm hearing is changing communications wording to community and moving services to communications, calling it services,
Yeah,
and rewording it a little bit.
yeah. Do you want me or a council person to do that, or are you okay?
If somebody wants to just so I'm not taking if somebody wants to email me, the communications responsibility, services responsibility, and since we're only changing those two, just change me those two. Actually, no, do we wanna talk about community and what we want the community to say?
Yeah,
So
why don't we,
first, can we, I'm sorry, I didn't
No, you're good.
interrupt you. I have ADD, if no one knows. The things that we would be adding to services, the old communications, what exactly would that entail?
All right, so first, let's just read straight out of from rules of council
Start with number one.
what communications is. So communications is to provide support for effective and timely communication to village residents. This is accomplished by working with village administration and the residents. That's the sum total of what it says in our current rules of council, right? Under streets and services, it says to provide oversight regarding maintenance of streets and sewers, both sanitary and storm, as well as related infrastructure. This is accomplished through the support of the village engineer and the mayor. So, I actually don't think we would change anything that it says under streets,
Correct.
right? We would take the word services and move that down to what it says for communication and add on there, oversight and planning for arranging trash removal contracts, oversight and planning for arranging leaf pickup, and oversight and planning of village maintenance. Those are all the things.
To include, salting and plowing, or just leave it as maintenance?
I think all that falls under
Okay,
maintenance
you're
broadly.
I mean, really, doesn't trash and leaf fall under maintenance, does it? I mean,
Those are specific services to call out, which is why we're calling it a services. I mean, we could just change the whole thing to
Yeah.
call it maintenance and say that the maintenance committee is responsible for the planning and oversight of all ongoing, maintenance and maintenance services.
And I also just wouldn't put leaf removal as maintenance. I mean, or
Yeah.
even trash removal. But that's really diving down into semantics and getting ticky-tacky, but,
Yeah.
you're not maintaining stuff, you're just
You're-
taking things literally unwanted garbage away. It's
But
just,
wouldn't you call a
Garbage.
property that was full of garbage unmaintained?
it depends if there's a red pickup truck in front or not.
We would call that.
Yeah.
A nuisance.
It is nice to call out leaf, I think that's important, because I know when I took it over, I didn't realize exactly what I was responsible to do when it's pretty basic. And
Yeah.
then, in July, it was almost like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this, I had no idea.
Like I said, when I sat up, in a cold sweat in February this year and texted you, we gotta make sure we do
The
leave.
yeah.
Yeah, it was only because, I.
And
only
trash
to make
is
sure-
this year,
trash
so
is
this
this
is gonna
year.
be a busier year for whoever's doing
We
it.
also don't necessarily have to do a 3-year contract, I think it just always comes out cheaper that way.
It was, yes, because if not, it could go up every single year.
Yeah.
So we guaranteed our residents that it wouldn't go up for 3 years.
Mhm.
And number two, not being lazy, but
It's easier.
it's
Oh,
much
yeah, it's
easier
hella easy.
because I did it once and I am the one that did it in 2020. Or, in 2020 for 3 years, so I didn't have to do it every single year.
Yeah.
It's
Rumpke's
a lot of
already-
work.
Rumpke's already email, I know I got an email, I don't know if anybody else did, but Rumpke's already like, how do we bid?
Yeah.
So,
It would be nice, since we're gonna have I would like to do it sooner rather than later, and I'm a
Oh,
big
yeah.
proponent of having leaf bid done much sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
but we have some people that refuse to bid on it earlier. But I do have somebody that's interested in, trying to work with us next year.
alright,
I definitely do like the multi-year contract if it locks in a decent price. That
Yes.
is,
Yeah, and we got
that's
that.
financially responsible, I completely agree.
Yeah.
okay, so I think we just had a change of
Service.
nomenclature from service to maintenance? Are we all in agreement with that?
You wanna name it services or you wanna name it maintenance?
I still think services, cause doesn't it still have some communication duties underneath
Yeah,
it?
maintenance.
Which is definitely more of a service we're providing.
That's fine.
Than maintenance we're doing, bam.
that's
Trash pickup is maintenance.
maintenance,
It's fine,
yeah.
that's fine, alright.
Do you wanna type it up and get it to me?
I will type it up.
Because I just now went back and forth between are we calling it services or maintenance, and I heard services and still maintenance in that same comment.
I think it's cause,
Hold
I'm
on,
hearing
I think it's
service.
cause Jason said
Hold on.
service and maintenance.
I said both, but,
Yeah.
cause I was like, maintenance, yeah.
services,
Yeah.
services it is. Anybody who doesn't want it to be services, scream now. Done.
then
And if
we
you
talk
do,
about-
realize there's only one of you, so we're gonna outvote you anyway. So you might as well
But at
not
least we know
scream.
who to laugh at.
Okay,
Okay,
I know we're
I
ready
can
to
deal
move on,
services.
however, if we're gonna talk about this, does anybody wanna talk about community?
Oh.
Only because of the way, I'm not trying to change it.
Yeah.
Only because of the way it's discussed in here is absolutely nothing that he does.
So it says, under community in the rules of council, community committee shall make recommendations to council for the care and maintenance of the village grounds and facilities.
I guess that right there.
Yeah.
And pool is definitely one of our facilities.
Yeah, so that
to-
is, so that
and
one's
then
fine.
Who work with code enforcement special,
Oh, that's right, we wanted to put that under
Especially-
safety.
to review
that'd
and
be fine.
clarify code ordinances, to review and clarify code ordinances. This is accomplished with support from the village administration and code enforcement office. So, so we have some difficulties here. One is that recommendations for the care and maintenance of village grounds now sounds like that should fall under what we just defined as services. And the code enforcement bit, I think we had already voiced an appetite to moving that part under safety.
Concur with that.
I don't know why that does not make sense to me at all.
What?
Code enforcement under safety.
Because the majority of our
Okay,
code
never
is
mind,
there
that
for
does-
safety.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because leash laws, speed limits,
Talk slow for me.
leash laws, speed limits,
Most of
decks,
our
decks put on the
code.
back of houses that are 12 feet tall and don't wanna collapse, cause we don't want the news saying 12 dead in Minerva Park deck party.
Yeah,
It
That,
makes
those
sense.
things happen.
she's on it now, she's on
Yeah.
it now, she just,
I'm on
I just
it.
wanted to get to the 12 dead in Minerva Park deck party.
I mean, it was pretty cool.
I had a sentence that had an end to it, I was getting to the end.
hopes and dreams. Okay,
Okay,
so,
it makes sense now, I just needed somebody to just talk slow.
but then maybe we need to redefine community to actually match the scope of the work that it does.
Right, because maintenance of village grounds
Right.
and services
So-
community are,
Should it be Parks and Rec?
That would be great,
I mean,
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
nice.
right, and it would advise on, pool, and,
does somebody wanna send me a
open space.
description of community, the way you see it? And I'll get it put in there, and does somebody wanna
And I
send
would-
me a description of services?
I'll get you services. We'll
And you
let,
get me yours.
And I would say recreation in parks, like Columbus
Yeah, I
does,
was gonna
not some
copy out.
weird, not some weird sitcom. Let's make it nice, like Columbus does, recreation, because you got recreation and part of recreation is park, but the big thing up front, and we'll get more
Yeah,
specific.
recreations would entail.
We're definitely
like the
more
MPCA
park than
events too, you know?
recreation, I don't think we're.
I
We're
think
not
by
sticking-
I think by dollar amount, we're more pool than anything, so, and I would say that's more of a recreation than a park.
Fair enough.
Okay, and then somebody
Yeah.
wants to rewrite safety, because then we just rearrange safety too.
I can do that.
Safety just needs added on and the code enforcement language from
So this,
I can-
the
I guess that would
community,
need to do.
I
yeah.
can.
Like copy and paste it.
I'm gonna copy and paste that down
All
here.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I promise I can copy and paste too if you needed to.
Yeah.
That'd be
We
kinda
will work
interesting
on
to take
that
honestly.
internally before Thursday. I will actually try to get it, if you guys could get those to me like, yesterday. The sooner you guys get them to me, we will copy, paste it and change and get this new out to everybody. If nothing else, we'll just take the committee's section and just send an email with that part in it.
Yeah,
Unless we're changing something else. So, okay,
Nope.
you're good on yours.
those are the changes I had to address, yes.
Yeah, like normal, I'm taking over. Mark, do you have anything on rules of council you wanna talk about?
Nope.
Anything on rules of council you wanna talk about?
Rules of council, no.
This whole big packet?
Alright, so I had a non-change piece of rules of council conversation I wanted to bring up.
Okay, you said two.
Well, those are two changes to the rules of council I wanted to bring up. This is a non-change, rules of council discussion I wanted to bring up solely because I had a resident, actually, talk to me and reference the exact section of the rules of council, and asked that it be addressed with council. And it was, under rules of conduct for the village council of Minerva Park, 2.5. Members should at all times, someone should go through this for grammar, but members should at all
You know what, I was
times.
I think they
Yeah.
changed it from one format to another
it's
format
true.
and it messed it up,
Yeah.
so I will see if
Oh,
we
no,
can
I mean,
get through it.
this should be at all times, not at all time.
Okay,
but-
what section?
It's, rules of conduct for the Council of Minerva Park, Ohio, 2.5. There's several in there. Maybe I'll actually go and red pen it all up, we'll see. Should at all time ensure their actions and statements provide a positive image and public perception of the village, and work to enhance and improve the village, other members of council and village employees. At no time shall a member of council commit any act or make remarks which are derogatory, degrading, belittling, sarcastic, or malicious toward another member of council, the village, mayor, or village employees, opposing viewpoints of council members. Hold on, there was a period there, so let me take a breath. Opposing viewpoints of council members, the mayor, or village employees may be shared, provided they are not presented in a manner violating these rules of conduct or any other laws of the village of the state of Ohio. Having read that and engaged my brain a little bit, while the sentiment is great, that we should all interact with each other respectfully, I actually think this isn't enforceable in any way, shape, or form. Jesse, can you?
No, it probably isn't.
Yeah, so, like I say, I bring it up because I had a resident say, you know, in witnessing interactions of council, I feel like people weren't following this rule. I think it is an aspirational rule, right? Because again, there's nothing other than us agreeing to this that holds us to it. But that's all I ask, is that when we are interacting, we remember to be civil.
And to touch on that, you know, I think just, you know, we get comfortable where we're at, and I think we need to remember exactly that we're all professionals, that, you know, we need to be polite, if not anything, to set an example as people representing the village, right? And that means being kind, and, you know, I understand that we get angry, we get whatever else we get, but, we still have to be the bigger person, I think. I think that's overall what needs to happen.
I am glad to hear you say that, but that was all I had to say regarding rules of council. Mayor Hughes, did you have another topic? All right, then Councilperson McNamara has been champing at the bit to bring up something that I haven't let him get to until now.
It's okay, it's okay. I guess I can include Jesse on this. A few weeks ago, I asked about the possible drafting of a ordinance to control our, fee scale for items that would be relevant to household level, things like, your debt permits or things like that, to act in I guess it's an anti-inflationary measure, kind of lock and control the prices going forward with whatever basket of the CPI they fall into, or whatever the national inflation rate is, depending on, however that could be best written out legally. And I just wondered, if there'd been any motion on that. I know you're busy, Jesse, I know it's not a huge thing, but I don't know.
No, but I will get it to you before the second meeting this month.
That's cool.
There isn't a second meeting this
January.
month.
Like,
There you go.
That's
It's
just fine,
like
like,
60
I
already
know,
by the end of the
I
year.
know.
Or
We
two.
should,
Yeah.
I know that we can't do a whole heck of a lot from
No.
our end in protecting people
Yeah, go
financially,
ahead,
we
and-
should.
So I think from the local fee control standpoint, if I may for a minute, the different communities, when you look across fee schedules, I've done quite a few over the years at different communities, they gear them to obviously some differences between the residents and commercial, right, so, and institutional users. And more importantly, they gear them to, and from a scale standpoint as to what's important to the community, right? Much like any particular point of code, what do you want to incentivize or de-incentivize, right? I mean, should there be a fee for, and there's a level to charge back to that's reasonable, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
everyone can agree that there's some reasonable range. I mean, when we look at, for this community, look at housing, single family housing charges some years ago when I started, there's a wide range, Because, you know, and include, and water and sewer and those as well, I mean, wide range, and it all depends on how the different communities in the multi-county area here view those items, right? Some of them are very high, some of them are much lower, so we had to find a fair one there, because we're also working with them, I wanted them, you know, but we wanted them to pay their fair share, because this community also has needs, right? And so you kind of look at all of these different items and how you get these into the kitty, so to speak, and how the community wants to spend them, right? And that's kind of how you look at it. It's one of those things that in time, like when you're talking about just residential items.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about commercial.
$25 here, we're very, I think personally, cheap in comparison. And
Yeah.
so it's
I
one of
don't
those things where
disagree.
the council can control those items over the course of time.
Right.
I don't
think-
disagree, I'm only saying that, you know, we don't know who's gonna be in these seats in the future, and I know that, you know, we can't do, you know, we cannot control the US inflation, we can't, but the little bits that we can do, you know, our wages, the little bits that we can do, you know, a fee schedule, so, you know, that's, you know, people can, I don't know,
I
just,
think
the
what
little bits
David's-
we can help, I
These
think
haven't
we
gone
should.
Yeah.
I know
what
they
David's-
haven't.
But I think he just wants to codify it, that they're kinda,
The problem is, I think in that example, if you codify it that way, and this is just my opinion here, but if you codify it that way, you're guaranteeing that it's going to go up at a much faster rate than perhaps this council may even do, because right now.
No, he's not saying a lockstep with inflation.
I'm saying lock
He's saying,
below.
he's saying a guardrail to it, so that no
Yeah.
fee could be increased more than the previous
The
year's
council
rate of
can change
inflation.
that at any point in time that they're choosing.
He's
That's-
saying if they wanted to do it,
But
like,
you
let's
would-
say 4 years from now, you have a whole different crew in here, and they come in and they wanna change every fee to $100.
I
He
don't
wants-
know how you, unless you, again, getting back to the charter, unless you have a charter, how you write that so that the council can't just magically make
Well-
that happen.
Well,
Sure,
council-
any particular
what you
council
would-
can change that on any given year.
Of course they could, but they would have to, if you put it into code, they would then have to
Reverse the code.
either, right, because I would probably hope that we would have a back door in it, right? Saying that, you know, with X vote of council, you can circumvent that,
Okay.
right?
any
That's one
changes to
thing,
the fee
because
structure
it could very
requires
well
a
be that
supermajority.
next
Okay, so that'd
year,
already be there then.
you know, there is some reason why a fee has to go up 100%. And we have to do that, well, then a backdoor should be included in it saying that with, you know, supermajority of council, this can be circumvented. There's that, right? But if it's codified, even without a backdoor, that council would have to repeal or rescind that legislation and then pass a new fee schedule, which is just enough of an onerous thing that we would hope
They would
that the
not.
people who do actually watch would ask questions and make it uncomfortable.
Yes,
And
the-
I think that the only question I have is, some of our fees, aren't they passed directly to Columbus, but they're on our fee schedule?
Correct, there's
So
certain
we can
ones like
control, like if we set
water
our,
and sewer, we've
Yeah.
got to set a certain level.
so just as an FYI, if
yeah.
we locked ourselves
Thank
into
you.
something and Columbus upped it, it would be on our fee schedule, so we would be paying.
And
so
Columbia
you would
Franklin
be-
County is the same thing, we.
That's what I
we
meant,
have to- Yeah, we have to.
So
pay
you
for certain fees.
would have to go line by line and say, is this
It's really-
something, because
It's,
where the set, where it's a great option and a great, I hear what you're trying to
It's
do.
a very specific set of ones that, like, our
Yeah, like
zoning
for
ones
residential,
specifically is-
like residential permitting fees,
Yeah,
or
it's
a
really-
records request
Yeah, it's
fee
a,
or
it's
something,
a,
I
it's a
mean.
small subset of the fees, and I'm happy
Right.
to show you, but, you know, that deal specifically with items in the zoning code, fencing, decking, you know,
Right.
patios.
Yeah, things like
You
that.
know, all those kind of things, driveways,
But,
whatever,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, like lock it for X number of years, and
Yeah.
then after that period, it cannot ever raise more than, you know, whatever the US inflation rate is, or the CPI, whatever basket it falls into, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just a little money where your mouth is kind of statement, I
you know,
suppose.
it's a good idea. I think if Jesse can be creative and,
Right.
Yeah.
Cause I know that there's also some police ones on there that you would have to be careful with, special duty and using the cars and doing that kind of stuff. You would have to make sure that, again, if our fee is not enough to cover our cost, we're paying for it.
right.
Yeah,
So,
that's-
I mean, that's where, you know, when you are, and I know what you're talking about is future, not us,
We're-
because the way that we're doing it, we haven't raised any of our fees unless it was something that needed to be raised, because when you start taking employees out of their job to do, you know, if our code enforcement has to go check a property 3 times, you're basically just trying to cover his time.
Yeah, I mean-
We're not trying to make, I don't
Like
think
a
we
break,
make
a
money.
break even is
Yeah.
fine.
Right,
You don't make money.
no, we don't make any money on any of our fees, I don't think we have any fees that's over 100.
No, it's
Well, I mean,
only,
it-
well, we have fees that are over 100, but they're in specific circumstances, so when.
Building a house.
When you build a house.
Right,
When you
not
encompass a lot of
I don't think we're
stuff.
talking
Yeah,
about.
we make money when
And-
someone builds a house,
And
cause,
even at
yeah.
that rate, about making money, we are a government, we are a public service, we exist to serve and facilitate the betterment of society.
Right, and some of them we can't raise, I mean,
I-
some of them we absolutely cannot charge more,
Yeah.
you know, when people come in and ask for public records, we can only charge X amount of dollars legally.
Okay,
I think Jesse, you understand the ask, and you'll put a pen to it, and we will consider
See where we're at.
and see where we're at.
Yep.
All right,
thank you so much.
did anyone else have any other things, for this work session?
Just a quick handout.
Oh, yeah,
That's it.
so you had the
Just
plow.
snow removal. So everyone can ponder this for the next week, and then we'll talk more. I'll bring more information to you after some discussion with the township, hopefully.
Are we expecting to have this done and on the agenda for speedy passage next Thursday?
So if the township is agreeable to kind of, because Jesse and I put this together with our discussion and input from Jeff as well. So if the township is good with this, I think, again, in mentioning it, I know what the flying ointment's gonna be. And what I would simply say is I'm gonna talk to Jesse this week, we may have some back to put in front of you, because I'll be honest, I'm a little concerned that while this goes on, I don't wanna be in a situation, you know, because we have one meeting coming up next week, where I have to call them and say, hey, you know what, we need an emergency meeting to get something on the books before the major snowfall goes in January, but we may have a couple snows by then.
Right.
Perhaps, I'm gonna talk to Jesse about something that's a stopgap, because I don't think, again, I think the body as a whole, no one here is disagreeing that, you know, there's something to pay the township for their time. We think it's
Oh,
equal to.
I'm disagreeing as a whole, but okay.
We equals to what taxes they would collect, that's where the issue
Yeah.
is at the end of the day. We know what that number is roughly, right?
That,
So-
no, I agree with, never mind.
Hey, we're gonna get ours plowed because we're covered, this is the, this is.
Well, I was about to say we need to pay, and I'm like, we already pay, they take some of my property taxes. But if what we're talking about is making up the difference in what they lost from the TIF,
Yes, that's what we're talking
then that is a fair
It is.
ask
That is
on
what
their,
we're talking
What
about.
yes.
we don't wanna go is say, the problem that was proposed to us in the initial meeting was, hey, it's $3,500 every time we plow. I'm like, well, what if you plow more than the taxes? Oh, well, it's more money. No, hold on, whoa. That's not, that doesn't make you whole, that's actually getting more out of us, right? So that's where the disagreement is in general, so.
Right.
Maybe
so-
set a maximum of.
That's
That's
what we
exactly
were
what's
hoping
in
for,
there.
yeah.
We've said it, and
That
with
was
snow again, what we propose, and as I put in my email to them today, I said, you know, let's talk about some range, obviously we can't exceed the number from the auditor, whatever it is, we're gonna call it 17.5 for our purposes today, because that's close enough. 4,500, all right, we can minimally guarantee you X number here, let's just call it 10.5. And then we pay you 2 more times, but beyond, you know, for 2 more snows, but beyond that 5 snows, that way, in years where it's 1 snow, you've made out. Years where we're beyond 5 snows, we've made out, but you have to
Yeah.
even it out somewhere. No one can predict the weather, right? It's a difficult thing. So that's what our proposal back to them is.
Well,
And we'll
I
see.
mean, shouldn't our proposal back just to be, we'll give you the money that you, like, this is how much money you would have gotten from the new build area if we were collecting, or is that like a really big amount that we don't
It's
wanna
not a big
mess
one,
with?
it's about 17,500, we're right in that
Okay.
range. So if the council, it's actually, if the council, we were trying to kind of merge this a little bit, because they came back to us with the initial proposal of 3,500 plow, no limits, and we were like, there's a limit. So if the council's okay with making them whole, then that's the easiest way to go back and say, we make you whole, and you provide the same service for the whole village, and there's no argument. You salt when you're supposed to, you plow when you're supposed to, but, you know, that's for.
I mean, I like getting things for free, but it's only fair that we, if that's money that they'd be getting and they're actually providing service, they can have that money.
Yeah, I am good with that, we just need to make sure that it, you know, there is a tying in, I don't know, it's the taxes that they aren't getting because it got pulled into our TIF. it's not just for snow plowing. I know we always say that, oh yeah, all we really get from Glendon is snow plowing, but they have a senior center, they
Right.
have,
They're not holding that one back from their township residents. It was
Yeah.
interesting, Brian, because we sat there and the one trustee was there and she said, yeah, that's really the only service we provide you is.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
wasn't,
but
yeah.
I don't know, I don't have an issue with making them whole,
Okay.
right? It just needs to be done in a manner that is holistic. I don't know that I have a better word for what I'm trying to say just at this
I
moment.
think if it's like, okay, if we make them whole with that number,
Mhm.
then it needs to go as it has always gone. There can't be
No, it isn't.
skimping on the salt, there can't be,
Right,
it has to
exactly.
just
We
happen
want the
as
same
it's.
service.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
We
Yeah,
don't want.
one of the things people always brag about is how well the snow,
Correct.
the roads are maintained in the snow here.
Right.
And if we're making them whole,
And should-
people should still love to
Should
brag.
never know that this happened.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
so did we not budget for a truck and a plow for next year?
No,
Or not.
you mean for a bigger, you mean for like a 350 or something like
Yeah.
that? That's.
So,
Didn't we
yes.
put that in the budget?
It is currently in the budget, but that is, again, and don't take this wrong, I know that, okay.
We
This
we
is
won't
a,
have it by January.
right, this is something that we probably wouldn't do until the end of the year, but to assume that we would be able to use that for salt and plowing with our one or maybe two maintenance people is not gonna change this.
Right.
If we were able to get them to go, here is my dream world as being the person that controls it. If I could send, you know, if it happens at a normal hour of the day and I can say, you know, maintenance department, Brian, whatever, can you go to this intersection, and this intersection and get it cleared until Glendon gets here? That is a perfect world for me.
Okay.
Because we have a couple intersections, especially with, you know, hopefully school's canceled, but if it's not, Farview and Minerva Lake Road has that hill that we have had residents go and put salt out for. If we could be proactive and get that with our truck and do a couple little areas like that, that would be great.
Yeah, it's a problem when you have a part-time maintenance guy, you
Correct.
need to call him at 3 AM to,
Right.
it just can't happen that way.
Right.
Not until you guys as a whole
But
consider
again,
more stuff.
we have budgeted for 2 maintenance.
No,
No? I thought
we
were
have the
had-
ability for seasonal, and I'm not going too far into this, but when you start talking about hiring an additional 1 to 2 full-time people, I will tell you, our finance team currently
Yeah.
hyperventilates.
So,
Is a fair word to use.
I think, sorry, let me back up just a minute, cause I think what I was trying to get at was, maybe we don't pay the whole 1750 or 500. We back it down a little since we did put money in for this, and we still keep, you can plow up to this many times, and we'll take care of the rest of it, kind of thing, or,
I mean,
you
it's a
know,
negotiation, there's
Since
nothing
we,
wrong with that.
since we budgeted the money for
And
the
yes,
truck and.
The answer is yes,
snowplow.
we have budgeted money for that to a certain extent. I don't know how fast we would actually, I mean, I can tell you, even just the police cruiser, which is a little different, has taken us over a year to get. I wanna
Yeah,
say it
that's
was
a big
closer to
problem.
18
And
months.
do we,
I
are our
think
maintenance people qualified to?
Well,
Yeah, but-
for a certain truck level, they
Sure.
are, right? So you could drive a 350.
Sure.
But they have to have some training on
Yeah.
plow, 'cause I don't know how to handle a plow. I do have a
Yeah,
point though,
yeah.
to jump on what you were
Yeah,
saying.
uh-huh.
There is another option with this, so you don't see municipalities hiring people to do massive plowing, because it just doesn't exist, right? Those works handled by municipalities, but what you could do, if you're interested in just doing emergency salting and plowing, you can do it on a per level service like they do parking lots. You could contract with someone to do specific work, and they can come at 3 AM like they do with other
Right.
places. You could handle it that way.
And so,
That's
well,
true.
it's just another option to think of, maybe the contract says, we will reach out to you and say, we wanna use one of our snow removal services for this particular snow event. And then we can handle the other ones, you know, if we have the vehicle to do it. If it's a light snow and we just need a quick plow, I mean, I'm sure our person could get through the neighborhood pretty quick and be done with
We'd
it.
have to set up some level of communication, because
Right.
it's a difficult thing to determine when it's happening. And they also are bringing people in or making them stay for overtime, there's all kinds of mandatory things that go with managing your maintenance department when you've got plowers.
Yeah.
I
don't know,
It
I'm
just
just-
feels like if everybody,
A bit more
if
complicated.
everybody has been happy with the service as it's been done and.
I don't see a reason for us to try to stick our fingers in
Penalize
it.
it, not foolish to. save $2,000 and then somebody doesn't answer the phone and the roads don't get plowed.
Which came back.
And I think the other part with the truck is, and not, the truck is important for being able to do some of those sections, but the truck is also, the whole point to it was, the current truck that we have just doesn't do the job
Right, it's not.
of pulling
what
logs
you're
and,
right, right.
and just the everyday stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
I'm just
No, it's
following up
options.
on that conversation we keep saying.
The answer is yes.
The maintenance building has to be able to handle a snow plow and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a little aspirational on us getting ahead of things.
What we were afraid of is what we were being told by a former council
Correct.
member and a
Okay.
former administrator. And so that, after the mayor and I are meeting with the township at this time.
It's not.
Okay.
That is not what they want, they don't wanna they're not getting rid of us as a whole, they're not gonna stop plowing with the big plow. So we don't have to worry about a big plow, it's these minor things,
Yeah.
and that's where it comes in.
Okay.
So we're good there.
Perfect.
So you would all be okay, in theory, if Eric tells them, look, here's what we took from you, here's what we'll give you back, is this okay to,
Yep.
Just be done with it.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, and then if they're not, then we can revisit it, but.
Then if they're not, we're going back to, we're gonna
Yeah,
do 10,000.
exactly.
I'll send that tomorrow morning. We'll see what they say.
Yeah, I mean,
And it would be nice to
kinda
get, if we
can, but
could
yeah.
just do that and get it over with and
Yeah, I
just
agree.
pass it as an emergency and get it done, so if we do have a
Christmas
Big
Eve.
snow
Christmas
event.
Eve snowstorm.
Agreed.
And honestly, in talking with Blendon Township, I would be okay thinking that they would do it.
Sure.
And knowing that we're handling it,
Okay,
but
right.
I don't wanna speak for them, and that's probably a bad thing for me to even say on the record, but we talked to them, they were very, you know, he's very easy to work with,
Yeah.
always has been.
anything else? Too late.
No, give me 10 seconds, cause I swear there was something.
1,000.
Stop!
You
What
are
is
not
today?
addressing another person in
I
a
don't know,
respectful
planning and
manner.
zoning, planning and zoning is Wednesday, the
Next
14th.
14th.
2 weeks.
Council meeting is
Council meeting next week on.
is
Thursday.
the 8th,
Yes.
correct. So, and then yours is Monday, that's not what, I was just trying to buy myself time because I was trying to think what else was going on.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember, I'll email you. I don't know. Or do it, I'm done.
Alright, move to adjourn. Alright, we're done. Turn off those.